TopMedTalk.
This is TopMedTalk, the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, evidence-based perioperative medicine. The EBPOM World Congress is taking place this year between the 7th and the 9th of July at the British Library in London. Check out ebpom.org now. Welcome to TopMedTalk. This is part 2 of our two-part piece looking at Anesthesiology 2025, the annual general meeting of the American Society of Anesthesiologists. We're going to kick off with news from long-time TopMedTalk presenter and co-editor-in-chief Desiree Chappell. Long-term listeners, of course, will remember that Desiree has presented an enormous amount of programs for us here at TopMedTalk. So it was with mixed emotions that we met this news. Have a listen to her speaking to our other co-editor-in-chief, Mike Grocott.
I wanted to announce that I will be stepping back from TopMedTalk as co-editor-in-chief as of the end of the year. And I will also be stepping away from my current role as Vice President of Clinical Quality for North Star Anesthesia, which I've been very proud of both of those things that I've done. But I will be joining BD APM, or Advanced Patient Monitoring, which all of you have probably heard they're a founding sponsor. Edwards Lifesciences, now BD, a founding sponsor for TopMedTalk. But what feels like a rather natural evolution in my career, I'm going to be joining the team there to help spread the word about the different things that we can do for our patients to improve the quality of care and outcomes, as what we continue to preach on TopMedTalk almost every single interview that we do. So it is very bittersweet, and I can't believe I'm actually holding it together as well as I am right now, because I think most people know I'm pretty emotional. But anyway, I just want to say thank you to Mike, who has been truly a partner in crime for almost the entire time with TopMedTalk. And not only for joining me when I'm like, Mike, come on, join me for this interview, and you don't know anything about anything, you just say yes. So appreciate that. But also for the mentorship and coaching and most of all friendship. So thank you so much.
Desiree's contribution to TopMedTalk is beyond calculation. We wish her all the best here on TopMedTalk and look forward to welcoming her onto the podcast in the future again, of course. Meanwhile, at Anesthesiology 2025, we did a piece, Innovations in Anesthesia, GE Healthcare's Advanced Solutions. Desiree Chappell and Sol Aronson discuss innovations in anesthesia with Brandon Hennick, Global Marketing Director, Monitoring Solutions at GE Healthcare, and J.W. Beard, Chief Medical Officer at GE Healthcare Patient Care Solutions. They unveiled GE's new premium anesthesia platform, designed for both current and future needs, emphasizing an enhanced workflow, patient safety, and adaptable technology.
One of the things I'm most excited about is where this machine can be, like what it can enable 5 years from now. It has the processing power, it has the memory, it has the connectivity to potentially expand with digital clinical decision support algorithms. The things that are in the literature today could find a home on the machine in the future. Ready for the
AI is the buzzword that, we're all either excited about or fearful of. Applications to those sort of mountains of substrate of data to be integrated into the system going forward.
And there's some of the listeners I know are a little bit like me and get into the technical pieces, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of buzz around this, around the connectivity, the integration, the future AI, those capabilities, right? But what JW is speaking about is what we've invested heavily in this new platform, the compute architecture. So it's a dual compute architecture in this device.
Don't forget, of course, links in the show notes to the fuller conversations here, and that's one we recommend. Moving from good news to worrying news, the hidden pandemic of post-operative complications. Now, in this piece, Desiree Chappell is joined by Mike Grocott, Sol Aronson, and their guest, Guy Ludbrook, Professor of Anesthesia at the University of Adelaide. Here they are at Anesthesiology 2025 in San Antonio, Texas. Guy Ludbrook explains more about the hidden pandemic that nobody's seeing.
Yeah, the hidden pandemic is still pretty hidden. So,
especially for our world of anesthesiology, where we don't see our patients afterwards per se, if you're not working in a critical care unit.
it's hidden from us, and I think often hidden from stakeholders such as payers and providers as well, in that sense of the C-suite or whatever. So the first thing that was helpful for us to say, yes, there is a problem. So that's fine. How might you deal with it? And we made it up on the spot. I'd like to believe it was a carefully planned, strategic. It evolved.
Project managed from every little detail.
It evolved to become a very structured process, but it evolved and we used other ideas and so on. That was very helpful. So one of the challenges is how can we help this happen? So we've set up a network which has been called the ARC network, but we're going to have to rechristen it now because Advanced Recovery Room Care was one place in Adelaide. I think the EPOC network would be a very appropriate title. And that has a number of things in it, and it is growing, but includes things like a toolkit, which helps people to at least understand what's possible, understand what might be needed, and also information on what the impact might be for the C-suite.
The title of the podcast is Exploring the Future of Perioperative Care, and it discusses this in more detail. It's waiting for you now in the archive, links in the show notes. Now, Perioperative Profiles is a new series here on TopMedTalk. We aim to continue to release a profile each month, spotlighting the professional and personal journeys of leading perioperative practitioners and researchers. Each month, we speak to a prominent figure in perioperative medicine, explore how they came into the field, what shaped their careers, key challenges and successes, and how their work has contributed to evidence-based perioperative practice. Stephen Shafer is a world-renowned emeritus professor of anesthesiology, perioperative and pain medicine at Stanford University Medical Center. TopMedTalk recorded a piece with him at Anesthesiology 2025. Andy Comsty and Kate Leslie discuss Dr. Shafer's incredible career in anesthesia and, amongst other things, why he moved away from pediatrics.
What I discovered, as do so many medical students, is that screaming kids are hard to deal with and screaming parents are worse. And so I came home every day for my pediatrics rotation with a migraine. And I said to my then wife, I said, I can't do this. It's just too difficult to deal with screaming kids. I like procedures. I enjoyed surgery a lot and gave serious thought to surgery. But I figured that I wasn't probably tall enough to reach the top of the operating field. And so I went into anesthesia.
Wow. And which subspecialties of anesthesia did you practice during your career?
Very few. So my real focus has been research. So I was a generalist at Stanford the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is really a specialty of exclusion. So I didn't do open heart surgery. I decided as a resident, I had too many people die and I didn't like people dying during my cases. So I didn't do open heart surgery on bypass cases.
Yeah.
And I don't do kids because I spent 20 years at the Veterans Hospital and I would rather anesthetize a Martian than a child.
Stephen Shafer, Perioperative Profile, recorded at Anesthesiology 2025. Don't forget to check out the full series of that. We've spoken to many luminaries in the field. On the subject of pediatrics, Optimizing Pediatric Blood Health is an interesting piece. Andy Comsty, Kate Leslie, speaking with Susan Gooby, Associate Professor of Anesthesiology at Harvard Medical School and a Senior Associate at the Department of Anesthesiology, Critical Care and Pain Medicine at Boston Children's Hospital. They discuss the speciality of non-cardiac pediatric surgery and Gooby's focus on patient blood management. She suggests thinking of blood health in the same way you might think of the health of an organ.
Basically, what patient blood management is everything to do with blood health. So you've probably heard of like heart health, gut health, kidney health, that sort of thing, brain health. Well, nobody really ever speaks about blood health. And when you think about it, it is really an important organ. It's one of the largest organs of the body. It's a liquid organ, the circulatory system and all the blood it contains. And so I think it's a topic that people don't think about. And so what patient blood management is doing everything to optimize the patient's own blood health and in the perioperative space particularly. So I'm speaking at this conference as with my editor hat on. I'm talking about best patient blood management articles, but also talking a lot about what is blood health.
The discussion also covers and refers to key research papers on blood management and the practical applications of these strategies. For more information, check out the show notes of that podcast. And to find that podcast, you can, of course, find it in the links to this podcast. So, while Andy and Kate were having that discussion, Desiree Chappell and Mike Grocott were joined by Klaus Gorlinger, Medical Director at TEM Innovations GmbH in Munich, Germany. Exploring Viscoelastic Testing and Patient Blood Management is the title of the podcast, and it focuses on patient blood management and viscoelastic testing, delving into the significance of viscoelastic testing in managing bleeding during surgeries, the evolution of testing techniques, and their impact on patient outcomes. Here's Klaus explaining his point of view on TopMedTalk.
My point of view is we need less bleeding. So by reducing the need for blood transfusion, we don't need anymore so much allogenic blood products. As an example, for liver transplant, when we started with liver transplant, it was usually you need whatever, 20, 30 units of blood. Now we do 50% without blood transfusion. We talk about severe bleeding when we need 2 units of red blood cells. This is something which saves a lot of blood products. We do it more or less plasma free, improve outcome and saving costs.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask too, because we always think about the aim of all the things that we do. We want to improve outcomes for sure. There is always a cost associated, but it sounds like if we're not transfusing people, we're avoiding complications of transfusion, we're not spending money. There is a true economic advantage.
Most people just look at, let's say, product costs.
You're listening to TopMedTalk. It's Anesthesiology 2025, part 2 of our digest of the TopMedTalk coverage of the annual general meeting of the American Society of Anesthesiologists. This piece now features Andy Comsty and Kate Leslie speaking with Ruthie Landau, Professor of Anesthesiology at Columbia University Medical Center and recently appointed Editor-in-Chief of the International Journal for Pediatric Anesthesia. This conversation dives deep into the importance of writing, reviewing and publishing high-quality research. And here Ruth speaks about the fact some things can be measured but don't make a difference, whereas other things are important but difficult to measure.
So it's finding the sweet spot and the balance between a wonderful question that can't be answered and something that can be measured but that doesn't make a difference. So I would say identifying a gap and designing the study that will allow the authors to get to the answer. And I think that we see more and more now in the research that we, in obstetric anesthesia, but elsewhere as well, is that finding the gap is not always that obvious. And we see either redundancies or things that don't make a difference. So we recommend doing scoping reviews. And I always urge our junior faculty or people interested in undertaking studies is look at the literature, what has been done, what has been answered, what hasn't been answered.
The episode also explains strategies for reviewers and authors aiming to contribute impactful studies and the value of editorials in contextualizing research. We also get into social media and digital tools when it comes to disseminating and engaging with published content. Also on TopMedTalk, understanding medical errors, cognitive basis and systemic solutions. Anesthesiology 2025. This was a fascinating conversation. Andy Comsty, joined by Desiree Chappell and their guest Joyce Waugh, Professor Emeritus of Anesthesiology at University of Minnesota Medical School. Joyce shares her journey from surgery residency to becoming a cardiac and thoracic anesthesiologist and her involvement in patient safety. The conversation delves into the cognitive mechanisms behind errors, the importance of system-level protections, and the role of technology in enhancing patient safety.
You can't see, you can't prevent, you can't predict, and you may not even perceive that you have made an error. It's that far out of your control. How can it possibly be your fault? But then we're also going to talk about the barriers and interventions that are available to us to prevent our errors from actually reaching and harming a patient. So it will be both of those subjects. And of course, if we're not enacting the barriers and the patient is harmed, then it is our fault.
Sounds fascinating. I can't wait. Let's dive in and give our listeners a bit of a sneak preview.
Joyce Waugh there, Professor Emeritus at the University of Minnesota Medical School. Also today, surgical site infections, oxygen therapy, and thermoregulation. Desiree Chappell and Kate Leslie and Mike Grocott welcome Harriet Hoth, a physician scientist and professor of anesthesiology and adjunct professor of biomedical engineering at the University of Utah. Dr. Hoff is known for her leadership in academic governance, medical education, and healthcare research. She shares insights on her distinguished career, focusing on surgical site infections and faculty development.
So my mom said to me, while you're there, if you're going to waste your brain like that, could you at least find out why it's so important to be shivering in the recovery room after knee surgery? And somehow my life led me to go, it's actually not only not important, it's not important to be cold, and it's bad for you. Yeah. And so I think the patient comfort sometimes has gotten, like Dan Sessler did some great data collection on how uncomfortable patients are in the PACU, and they are, shivering is one of the worst. Well, nausea and itching are bad. So I want people not to be shivering, and I kind of think Dan may have chosen 36. I think it was pretty arbitrary because you don't shiver.
Yes, so he recently published a trial with colleagues from China, and it was a large trial in major non-cardiac surgery, and the bottom line of that one was that 35.5 was the point at which there were not so many bad side effects afterwards.
Also at Anesthesiology 2025, the annual meeting of the American Society of Anesthesiologists, Desiree Chappell hosted Professor Michael Scott from the University of Rochester and Dr. Weil Sazu, Director of Research for North Star Anesthesia. Their discussion focused on the evolution of patient-centered monitoring, the importance of continuous hemodynamic monitoring, and the broader implications of hemodynamic instability. The guests delve into their recent consensus paper with the Anesthesia Patient Safety Foundation, and they highlight the need for more comprehensive monitoring technologies that are accessible and cost-effective.
When we start talking about patient outcomes and the short-term and the long-term impact, it's not just our patient, it's the patient and the family and the society and the community and the cost and the healthcare system as a whole and the population. So this is not limited to somebody's low blood pressure in PACU and we gave them something to help. This is way beyond. So I think the onus is on us to figure out what we can figure out. And we previously used to say we don't know what we don't know because we don't have the data.
Now we have the
and once we have it, the more we know about it, the more we can treat it. And I'm glad to see so much interest in it.
Finally, here on TopMedTalk, Andy Comsty and Kate Leslie interview Professor of Anesthesia and Perioperative Care at the University of California, San Francisco, Adrian Gelb, this year's Ellison Pierce Lecturer. Now, Dr. Gelb recounts training in South Africa, work in England and Canada, and how he was steered into neuroanesthesia at High Volume Cerebral Aneurysm Center, becoming engaged by understanding surgical outcomes and encouraging trainees to learn the operative field. He describes developing global health interests and joining the World Federation of Societies of Anesthesiologists and their work with the World Health Organization's international standards. It's a wide-ranging conversation, highly recommended, very interesting guest. Let's have a listen to some of his thoughts on AI.
Well, everybody and their mother these days is talking about AI. So that, without a doubt, is going to flood our literature with some good stuff and some bad stuff and some stuff that will lead us astray. But clearly, the ability of technology in general to lead us, it has been an integral part of our advancement in patient safety and will continue to do that. But clearly, AI technology will take us an order of magnitude further ahead, not just in our clinical decision making, but also in documenting what exactly we do, which touches on this morning's Rovenstein lecture on the importance of data and feedback. So I'm excited about the possibility and the future, and interested to watch and dabble in how we bring this to fruition for the benefit of patients. And if we do things for the benefit of patients in systems that are geared to working appropriately for the benefit of patients and ourselves, I think we'll be much happier in our jobs, much happier with what AI tells us we should be doing as we evaluate it. And I think patients will have a way better outcome.
Thanks for downloading TopMedTalk. Don't forget, of course, all of the pieces you've heard in this digest are available for full for you to listen to for free here on TopMedTalk. Thanks for downloading TopMedTalk. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you've got the chance to click like or interact with us, do that. It always helps us out with the algorithm.
TopMedTalk.
TopMedTalk is the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, evidence-based perioperative medicine. Join clinicians from around the world at EBPOM World Congress 2026 between the 7th and the 9th of July at the British Library in London. 3 days of evidence-based perioperative medicine, global insights and expert debate, featuring speakers including Michael Marmot and Ken Rockwood. Go now to ebpom.org. That's ebpom.org.